Hey, boys and girls. So we have been learning and you've been talking about some measurements. Remember what I told you the other day that we could use to kind of help us remember or guesstimate how long an inch is? You're right. I said from the end of your thumb to the knuckle right here is 1 inch, correct? So then you have talked about the length of a foot. You can put 12 inches together to make 1 foot, and that's the length of our just regular rulers that we use every day. If you take 3 of those feet and put them together, 3 rulers, you get a yard. And so maybe you remember you can take 1 foot, 2 foot, and 3 feet to make the Y, and that will help you remember that it takes 3 rulers or 3 feet to make 1 yard. So we're going to look at some objects or items today, and we're just going to talk about what would be the best length of measurement to measure those with. So I'm going to show you a picture. Look at this rake. If you were going to measure the length of a rake, would you want to measure it using inches? Would you want to use feet, so take multiple rulers and put them together? Or would you want to use yards, the big yardstick? Which one would you measure with? Yeah, there's always more than one option. You might have said feet because you could take 1 ruler and wherever it ended, you'd have to hold your spot and put your finger there, and then you'd move your ruler around, and you could always do that. Since we know that a rake is probably, that you might rake leaves with, is probably longer or taller than you are, you might want to use a yardstick. So we'd measure that in yards. Let's look at this. What is this? A feather. How would you measure a feather? Feathers are pretty small, so you definitely would want to use inches. Good. Now we know that our inches are on our ruler, right? But you wouldn't need the whole ruler or more than 1 ruler to measure that, so inches would be great. What about this? A whale. You know that is a very, very large fish, right? So we would definitely want to use yards for that one. It would take multiple yardsticks. What about this? A house. The length of your house. That's a long one as well. We would want to use yardsticks and put those together to make that. Okay. What about a yo-yo? Tell me, what would you use to measure a yo-yo? It's small. You would use small units of measurement like an inch. Good job. What about an ostrich? A bird like this. Yeah, since they're about how tall maybe adults are whenever they get full grown, you probably could use feet. We don't use inches to measure people. We use feet. And so that you would use that same thing to measure birds. What do you guys think about this? A little lobster. They're fairly small and you would use inches. Good. It'd probably be more than 1 inch, but not so much that you'd need more than 1 ruler, right? Okay. What about an umbrella? Maybe just a ruler, and that ruler would be, you'd be measuring in feet. It might be more than 1 foot. You might have to put 2 or 3 rulers together, but it might not be long enough to measure in with multiple yardsticks. But what about, I'm trying to figure out the top of this one, what about a big airplane? Yeah, those are big. You'd probably want to measure that in yards because of how long they are. It would take multiple yardsticks. What about the length of a wagon? How long a wagon is? That one we would measure in feet. Good. We only have a couple more. What about the length of a key? That's a short object, so we would definitely use inches. What about the length of a train? Okay, very good. That's a really long. It'd probably be pretty long, and you would want to use a big unit like yards because you would need multiple ones to do that. Now remember, we talked about how there could be different ones. The one over here that if you wanted to move one, we could use feet to measure our rake but it would take more than 1 of your rulers or more than 1 foot to do that. So some of them you could take, you could do either way with different units of measurement. It just might take you a little bit longer, or you might have to stop and move whatever you're measuring with down more. Okay. So today, what you're going to be practicing is you're going to practice looking at an item and you're going to sort. What would you want to measure it with? What would be the best unit of measurement? So do your very best, and I can't wait to see what work you produce.